This is the story of why we're afraid of the dark, and it has a body count. Let's start with something genuinely weird. You were not born afraid of the dark. Newborns do not care. You can put a baby in a pitch-black room and its only complaints will be the usual ones. It's a baby. It has a lot of complaints. None of them are about the lighting. Then, around the age of 4, a switch flips, and almost every kid on Earth, in every culture, independently decides the closet is a threat, the hallway is a gauntlet, and the space under the bed is enemy territory. Nobody teaches them this. It just shows up on schedule like baby teeth. Except instead of teeth, it's a deep personal conviction that the laundry pile is plotting something. And that should stop you cold. A fear you have to grow into isn't a glitch. It's a program. Somebody wrote that code. And code like this only gets written for one kind of reason. The kind with teeth. To find it, you have to go back to the fire. For almost all of human history, night was not a time of day. It was a place. And it was a place you did not go, because the dark was full of tenants, and every one of them was bigger than you. Leopards, lions, hyenas, animals with eyes engineered for the black. While your eyes, the moment the sun went down, simply clocked out for the day. No night vision, no claws, no fangs, no plan. Just a soft, slow, upright snack that had spent all afternoon being the smartest thing on the savannah and was now, at 9 p.m., quietly demoted to groceries. And we're not guessing about the leopard. Remember that skull? In 1924, a scientist named Raymond Dart had it mailed to him from a quarry in South Africa. For years, people assumed the child died in some grand ancient catastrophe. Then researchers measured those 2 puncture holes against the bite of a leopard. Perfect match. Not close. Perfect, down to the spacing of the fangs. So the great ancient mystery turned out to be, a cat got it. The same way a cat gets a bird today. Except the bird was us, and we were supposedly running the planet. That's the receipt. The dark used to eat our children, and we kept the skull with the teeth marks still in it, like the world's grimmest gift receipt. So we built a wall against the night. The wall wasn't bricks. The wall was fire. Fire was the first thing that ever made the dark back up. It cooked food and kept you warm. But the real killer feature was the circle of light. Inside the circle, you could see. Outside it, you were back on the menu. And every predator on Earth, over thousands of generations, learned one rule about the flame. Do not walk into the glowing thing the monkeys are holding. For the first time ever, humans had a place the dark could not follow. With a fire in the middle, and presumably someone already telling you you're standing too close to it. And here's the part that's running inside your skull right now. Around that fire, you had 2 kinds of people. The calm ones, laid-back ancestors who'd stroll off into the dark to check out an interesting noise, totally relaxed, no bad feeling about it at all. And the nervous ones, whose skin crawled the instant they stepped past the light, who stayed close, who kept glancing over their shoulder like a paranoid weirdo. Guess which group is your family? The calm, brave, well-adjusted ones mostly got eaten. They did not have children, on account of being inside a leopard. The twitchy, anxious, I don't like this, can we go back ones survived. They had kids, and they passed the fear straight down the line to you. So, congratulations. You are the direct descendant of the most nervous people who have ever lived. Every ancestor in your entire bloodline, going back millions of years, was too scared of the dark to die in it. The relaxed ones aren't your ancestors. They're nobody's ancestors. They're a stain in the fossil record, which explains why the fear hits hardest in childhood. A small kid, 100,000 years ago, was exactly the size a leopard was shopping for. Small, soft, portable. The child who felt total blind terror at the edge of the dark and screamed for an adult survived. The brave, curious one who toddled off toward the interesting rustling sound became a very short story. So your 4-year-old isn't being dramatic about the closet. Your 4-year-old is running million-year-old security software, correctly flagging the closet as a threat, and honestly doing a better job of risk assessment than most adults. And it gets weirder, because your brain in the dark doesn't just get scared. It starts making things up. There's a real feature of the mind called agent detection. When your eyes are useless, your brain flatly refuses to accept that the room is empty and fine. It assumes everything is alive, and everything wants you. The coat on the door? A guy? The creak of the floorboard? Footsteps? That pile of clothes on the chair? Sir, that is a man. And that's not your brain malfunctioning. That's your brain working exactly as designed. Picture two ancestors hearing a rustle in the black grass. Number one thinks, probably the wind, and relaxes. Number two thinks, that's a predator, I'm leaving, and sprints. If it's the wind, number two looks slightly silly and burns a few calories. If it's a lion, number one is dinner. Run that 1,000 times. Assume every rustle is a monster and you'll be wrong constantly and alive. Assume every rustle is nothing and you'll be right almost every time. And then, one time, extremely dead. And extremely dead only has to happen once. So your brain kept the setting that keeps embarrassing you but never gets you killed. In the dark, it would rather make you scream at a coat than give a leopard one free shot. So that's the machine. A fear that boots up in childhood, plus a brain that packs the dark with imaginary attackers, all left over from a very long stretch of being regularly, casually eaten. Now watch what a species does with a brain like that and a few 100,000 years of free evenings. We didn't just feel the fear, we gave it a face. Thousands of them. Every culture that ever existed, staring into the same dark invented monsters to fill it. And here's the unsettling part. The monsters are almost identical everywhere, because they're all describing the same real thing. Exhibit A. Sleep paralysis. You wake in the night and you cannot move, can't speak, can't lift a finger. Your whole body is locked solid. And worst of all, you are completely certain something is in the room, sitting on your chest, slowly pressing the air out of you. This is real, and it's medical. When you dream, your body paralyzes itself so you don't stand up and act the dream out. A very reasonable safety feature. Occasionally, the wires cross. Your mind wakes up before the paralysis lets go, and you come to awake, frozen, terrified. While your helpful agent detection brain, noticing you're scared, generously supplies a monster to explain why. For thousands of years, with zero neuroscience available, culture after culture looked at this exact experience and reached the identical verdict. Yeah, that's a demon. The Norse called it the Mara, a thing that crept into the house at night and crouched on your chest while you slept. And that word never left. Mara. It's literally where we get the word nightmare. So every time you say you had a nightmare, you are technically naming a small chest-sitting Norse demon. Sweet dreams. They also believed the dark belonged to trolls, huge, dim, powerful things that ruled the night, but had one fatal weakness. The first touch of sunrise turned them instantly to stone. Which is why, to this day, in basically every fairy tale, the monster has to be gone by dawn. That rule isn't a coincidence. It's a 1,000-year-old troll safety regulation, and you're still following it. But here's the detail that should raise the hair on your neck. The Norse weren't special. That exact same chest-crushing night demon shows up, completely independently, almost everywhere humans have ever lived. In Newfoundland, it's the old hag. In Japan, it's kanashibari, being bound by an invisible force. In Brazil, it's the pisadeira, a long-nailed old woman who waits on the roof and comes down to stand on your chest, because apparently every culture on Earth independently agreed the chest is the spot. In the American South, it was the haint. Different continents, different centuries. People who never met, never traded a word, never even knew the others existed. All describing the same monster. Comes at night, pins you down, sits on the chest, the least original monster in human history, and it terrified everybody everywhere forever. They weren't copying each other. They were all describing the same broken moment in the same human brain. Scare a whole species the exact same way, and the whole species draws you the exact same picture. And those silly superstitions, a monster that vanishes at sunrise, a demon that pins you in your sleep, aren't campfire nonsense. They're ancient people doing science with the only equipment they had, taking the real terror of the dark and the real glitch in the sleeping brain and giving it a name so it could be survived. Together. And that word, together, is the actual twist in this whole story. Because the fear of the dark did something no leopard ever intended. It saved us by shoving every human being into the same spot at the same time every night for 1,000,000 years. The fire. You couldn't be out in the dark, so you were in the light with everybody else. And there's only so long you can sit shoulder to shoulder in a glowing circle before somebody starts talking. And here's a great finding. An anthropologist named Polly Wiesner spent years with the Ju Huanzi people of the Kalahari, tracking what they talk about by day versus by night. Daytime talk, it turns out, is deeply boring. Logistics. Who's doing what, where the food is, who owes who's annoyed at who. It's a work meeting. It's Stone Age stand-up with your manager in the front row. But at night, around the fire, the whole subject changes. The complaints fall away, and what replaces them is stories, myths, the ancestors, who we are and where we came from. The fire was the first theater, the first church, the first classroom. Nearly everything we call culture was invented by terrified people huddled in a ring of light, specifically because they were too scared to walk 10 feet in any direction. The dark spent 1,000,000 years trying to eat us, and by hiding from it, we accidentally invented storytelling, religion, and each other. And then, about 140 years ago, we did something no animal in the history of the planet had ever pulled off. We beat the dark. In 1879, Thomas Edison got a light to burn steadily inside a glass bulb, and within a single human lifetime, the night just ended. Flip a switch, and the leopard's entire world vanishes. For the first time in 4 billion years of life on Earth, an animal could look straight at the darkness, say no thanks, and turn it off. At 3 in the morning, indoors, for no reason at all, just because it could. So the fear should have died right there. 1,000,000 years cowering behind a wall of fire, and we finally upgraded to a wall switch. Threat eliminated. Roll credits. Except nobody told the fear. You still don't love the basement. You still feel it the instant the power cuts and the whole house drops to black. Kids still want the hall light on. There's an entire nightlight industry quietly pulling in hundreds of millions a year, selling tiny artificial campfires to frightened people in a world with a statistically insulting number of leopards left in it. We stand in our locked, alarmed, Wi-Fi-enabled, electrically lit homes. We know for a fact nothing is there. And we feel it anyway. Because instinct does not care what you know. It was carved over millions of years, and 140 years of Edison isn't nearly enough time to file it back down. In fact, we know this instinct so well that we sell it back to ourselves on purpose. The entire horror industry, billions of dollars a year, is one long business built on this single leftover reflex. Every scary movie ever made runs the identical trick. Turn the lights down and let your ancient brain fill the dark with a predator free of charge. The filmmakers don't even have to build the monster. It's pre-installed in every seat in the theater. They just dim the lights, wait for your 50,000-year-old survival software to boot up a leopard on its own, and charge you $14 for the privilege. Honestly, respect. So, no, your fear of the dark isn't childish. It isn't a flaw. It's a gift with an extremely long receipt attached. It's the reason your ancestors outlived the leopard. It's the reason a 4-year-old screams for the light. It's the reason every culture on Earth drew the same monster on the same cave wall. And it's the reason we ever huddled close enough for long enough to become human in the first place. Which brings us back to you, sitting there, probably with a light on. Suddenly a little too aware of the dark rooms in your own house and that faint, familiar crawl on the back of your neck. That feeling is not a weakness. It's a message. It's 10,000 generations of anxious survivors, every last one of whom lived long enough to make you, all whispering the same ancient instruction down the line. Get back to the fire. You can leave the hall light on tonight. Your ancestors would want you to, and they'd absolutely judge the brave ones.